Welcome to Strawberry Seeds. I'm Cece, and today we're going to be reading one of my favorite stories about donuts. So this story is actually a chapter from the book Homer Price by Robert McCloskey. Now, there's a reason I love this story so much, and if you stay till the end, I'll tell you why. Okay, the story starts with a picture. The Doughnuts. One Friday night in November, Homer overheard his mother talking on the telephone to Aunt Agnes over in Centerburg. "I'll stop by with the car in about half an hour and we can go to the meeting together," she said, because tonight was the night the Ladies' Club was meeting to discuss plans for a Bach social and to knit and sew for the Red Cross. "I think I'll come along and keep Uncle Ulysses company while you and Aunt Agnes are at the meeting," said Homer. So after Homer had combed his hair, and his mother had looked to see if she had her knitting instructions and the right size needles, they started for town. Homer's Uncle Ulysses and Aunt Agnes have a very up-and-coming lunchroom over in Centerburg, just across from the courthouse on the town square. Uncle Ulysses is a man with advanced ideas and a weakness for labor-saving devices. He equipped the lunchroom with automatic toasters, automatic coffee maker, automatic dishwasher, and an automatic donut maker. All just the latest thing in labor-saving devices. Aunt Agnes would throw up her hands and sigh every time Uncle Ulysses bought a new labor-saving device. Sometimes she became unkindly disposed toward him for days and days. She was of the opinion that Uncle Ulysses just frittered away his spare time over at the barber shop with the sheriff and the boys. So, what was the good of a labor-saving device that gave you more time to fritter? When Homer and his mother got to Centerburg, they stopped at the lunchroom, and after Aunt Agnes had come out and said, "My, how that boy does grow," which was what she always said, she went off with Homer's mother in the car. Homer went into the lunchroom and said, "Howdy, Uncle Ulysses." "Oh, hello, Homer, you're just in time," said Uncle Ulysses. "I've been going over this automatic donut machine, oiling the machinery and cleaning the works. Wonderful things, these labor-saving devices." "Yep," agreed Homer, and he picked up a cloth and started polishing the metal trimmings while Uncle Ulysses tinkered with the inside workings. "Oh," sighed Uncle Ulysses, "and look here, Homer, you've got a mechanical mind. See if you can find where these two pieces fit in. I'm going across to the barber shop for a spell, 'cause there's something I've got to talk to the sheriff about. There won't be much business here until the double feature is over, and I'll be back before then." Then, as Uncle Ulysses went out the door, he said, Homer, after you get the pieces in place, would you mind mixing up a batch of donut batter and putting it in the machine? You could turn the switch and make a few donuts to have on hand for the crowd after the movie, if you don't mind." "Okay," said Homer, "I'll take care of everything." A few minutes later, a customer came in and said, "Good evening, Bud." Homer looked up from putting the last piece in the donut machine and said, "Good evening, sir. What can I do for you?" "Well, young feller, I'd like a cup of coffee and some donuts," said the customer. "I'm sorry, mister, but we won't have any donuts for about half an hour, until I can mix some dough and start this machine. I could give you some very fine sugar rolls instead." "Well, Bud, I'm in no real hurry, so I'll just have a cup of coffee and wait around a bit for the donuts. Fresh donuts are always worth waiting for, is what I always say." "Okay," said Homer, and he drew a cup of coffee from Uncle Ulysses' super automatic coffee maker. "Nice place you've got here," said the customer. "Oh, yes," replied Homer. "This is a very up-and-coming lunchroom with all the latest improvements." "Yes," said the stranger, "must be a good business. I'm in a business too, a traveling man in outdoor advertising. I'm a sandwich man. Mr. Gabby's my name." My name is Homer. I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Gabby. It must be a fine profession, traveling and advertising sandwiches." "Oh no," said Mr. Gabby. "I don't advertise sandwiches. I just wear any kind of ad. One sign on front and one sign on behind, this way, like a sandwich. You know what I mean?" "Oh, I see. That must be fun. And you travel, too?" asked Homer, as he got out the flour and the baking powder. "Yeah, I ride the rods between jobs, on freight trains, you know what I mean?" "Yes, but isn't that dangerous?" asked Homer. "Of course, there's a certain amount of risk, but you take any method of travel these days, it's all dangerous. You know what I mean? Now take airplanes, for instance." Just then, a large, shiny black car stopped in front of the lunchroom, and a chauffeur helped a lady out of the rear door. They both came inside, and the lady smiled at Homer and said, "We've stopped for a light snack. Some doughnuts and coffee would be simply marvelous." Then Homer said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the doughnuts won't be ready until I make this batter and start Uncle Ulysses' doughnut machine." "Well, now, aren't you a clever young man to know how to make doughnuts?" "Well," blushed Homer, "I've really never done it before, but I got a receipt to follow." A receipt is like a recipe. "Now, young man, you must simply allow me to help. You know I haven't made doughnuts for years, but I know the best receipt for doughnuts. It's marvelous, and we really must use it." "But, ma'am," said Homer. "Now just wait till you taste these doughnuts," said the lady. "Do you have an apron?" she asked, as she took off her fur coat. And her rings and her jewelry, and rolled up her sleeves. "Charles," she said to the chauffeur, "hand me that baking powder. That's right, and young man, we'll need some nutmeg." So Homer and the chauffeur stood by and handed things and cracked eggs while the lady mixed and stirred. Mr. Gabby sat on his stool, sipped his coffee, and looked on with great interest. "There," said the lady, when all of the ingredients were mixed. "Just wait till you taste these doughnuts." "It looks like an awful lot of batter," said Homer, as he stood on a chair and poured it into the doughnut machine with the help of the chauffeur. "It's about 10 times as much as Uncle Ulysses ever makes." "But wait till you taste them," said the lady, with an eager look and a smile. Homer got down from the chair and pushed a button on the machine marked "Start." Rings of batter started dropping into the hot fat. After a ring of batter was cooked on one side, an automatic gadget turned it over and the other side would cook. Then another automatic gadget gave the doughnut a little push, and it rolled neatly down a little chute, all ready to eat. "That's a simply fascinating machine," said the lady, as she waited for the first doughnut to roll out. "Here, young man, you must have the first one. Now, isn't that just too delicious? Isn't it simply marvelous?" "Yes, ma'am, it's very good," replied Homer, as the lady handed doughnuts to Charles and to Mr. Gabby and asked if they didn't think they were simply divine doughnuts. "It's an old family receipt," said the lady with pride. Homer poured some coffee for the lady and her chauffeur and for Mr. Gabby, and a glass of milk for himself. Then they all sat down at the lunch counter to enjoy another few doughnuts apiece. "I'm so glad you enjoy my doughnuts," said the lady. "But now, Charles, we really must be going." "If you will just take this apron, Homer, and put 24 doughnuts in a bag to take along, we'll be on our way. And Charles, don't forget to pay the young man." She rolled down her sleeves and put on her jewelry, and then Charles managed to get her into her big fur coat. "Good night, young man. I haven't had so much fun in years. I really haven't," said the lady, as she went out the door and into the big shiny car. "Those are sure good doughnuts," said Mr. Gabby, as the car moved off. "You bet," said Homer. Then he and Mr. Gabby stood and watched the automatic doughnut machine make doughnuts. After a few dozen more doughnuts had rolled down the little chute, Homer said, "I guess that's about enough doughnuts to sell to the after-theater customers. I'd better turn the machine off for a while." Homer pushed the button marked "Stop," and there was a little click. But nothing happened. The rings of batter kept right on dropping into the hot fat, and an automatic gadget kept right on turning them over, and another automatic gadget kept right on giving them a little push, and the donuts kept right on rolling down the little chute, all ready to eat. "That's funny," said Homer. "I'm sure that's the right button." He pushed it again, but the automatic donut maker kept right on making donuts. "Well, I guess I must have put one of those pieces in backwards," said Homer. "Then it might stop if you push the button marked "Start," said Mr. Gabby. Homer did, and the donuts still kept rolling down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. "I guess we could sell a few more donuts," said Homer, "but I'd better telephone Uncle Ulysses over at the barber shop." Homer gave the number, and while he waited for someone to answer, he counted 37 donuts roll down the little chute. Finally, someone answered. "Hello, this is the the barber shop." "Oh, hello, Sheriff. This is Homer. Could I speak to Uncle Ulysses?" "Well, he's playing pinochle right now," said the sheriff. "Anything I can tell him?" "Yes," said Homer. "I pushed the button marked "Stop" on the donut machine, but the rings of batter keep right on dropping into the hot fat, and an automatic gadget keeps right on turning them over, and another automatic gadget keeps giving them a little push, and the donuts keep right on rolling down the little chute. It won't stop." "Okay, hold the wire, and I'll tell him." Then Homer looked over his shoulder and counted another 21 donuts rolled down the little chute, all ready to eat. Then the sheriff said, "He'll be right over. Just gotta finish this hand." "That's good," said Homer. "Goodbye, Sheriff." The window was full of donuts by now, so Homer and Mr. Gabby had to hustle around and start stacking them on plates and trays and lining them up on the counter. "Sure are a lot of donuts," said Homer. "You bet," said Mr. Gabby. "I lost count at 1,202, and that was quite a while back." People had begun to gather outside the lunchroom, and someone was saying, "There are almost as many donuts as there are people in Centerburg, and I wonder how in tarnation Ulysses thinks he can sell all of them." Every once in a while, somebody would come inside and buy some, but while somebody bought 2 to eat and a dozen to take home, the machine made 3 dozen more. By the time Uncle Ulysses and the sheriff arrived and pushed through the crowd, the lunchroom was a calamity of donuts. Donuts in the window, donuts piled high on the shelves, donuts stacked on plates, donuts lined up 12 deep all along the counter, and donuts still rolling down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. "Hello, Sheriff. Hello, Uncle Ulysses. We're having a little trouble here," said Homer. "Well, I'll be dunked," said Uncle Ulysses. "Durned if you won't be when Aggie gets home," said the sheriff. "Mighty fine donuts, though. What'll you do with them all, Ulysses?" Uncle Ulysses groaned and said, "What will Aggie say? We'll never sell 'em all." Then Mr. Gabby, who hadn't said anything for a long time, stopped piling donuts and said, "What you need is an advertising man. You know what I mean? You got the donuts, you gotta create a market. Understand? It's balancing the demand with the supply. That sort of thing." "Yep," said Homer. "Mr. Gabby's right. We have to enlarge our market. He's an advertising sandwich man, so if we hire him, he can walk up and down in front of the theater and get the customers." "You're hired, Mr. Gabby," said Uncle Ulysses. Then everybody pitched in to paint the signs and to get Mr. Gabby sandwiched between. They painted "Sale on Donuts" in big letters on the window, too. Meanwhile, the rings of batter kept right on dropping into the hot fat, and an automatic gadget kept right on turning them over, and another automatic gadget kept right on giving them a little push, and the donuts kept right on rolling down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. "I certainly hopes this advertising works," said Uncle Ulysses, wagging his head. "Aggie'll certainly throw a fit if it don't." The sheriff went outside to keep order, because there was quite a crowd by now, all looking at the donuts and guessing how many thousands there were, and watching new ones roll down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. Homer and Uncle Ulysses kept stacking doughnuts. Once in a while somebody bought a few, but not very often. Then Mr. Gabby came back and said, "Say, there's not much use of me advertising at the theater. The show's all over, and besides, almost everybody in town is out front watching that machine make doughnuts." "Zeus," said Uncle Ulysses, "we must get rid of these doughnuts before Aggie gets here." "Looks like you will have to hire a truck to haul 'em away," said the sheriff, who had just come in. Just then there was a noise and a shoving out front, and the lady from the shiny black car and her chauffeur came pushing through the crowd and into the lunchroom. "Oh, gracious," she gasped, ignoring the doughnuts. "I've lost my diamond bracelet, and I know I left it here on the counter," she said, pointing to a place where the doughnuts were piled in stacks of 2 dozen. "Yes, ma'am, I guess you forgot it when you helped make the batter," said Homer. Then they moved all the doughnuts around and looked for the diamond bracelet, but they couldn't find it anywhere. Meanwhile, the doughnuts kept rolling down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. After they had looked all around, the sheriff cast a suspicious eye on Mr. Gabby. But Homer said, "He's all right, Sheriff. He didn't take it. He's a friend of mine." Then the lady said, "I'll offer a reward of $100 for that bracelet. It really must be found. It really must." "Now don't you worry, lady," said the sheriff. "I'll get your bracelet back." "Zeus, this is terrible," said Uncle Ulysses. "First all these doughnuts, and then on top of that, a lost diamond bracelet." Mr. Gabby tried to comfort him, and he said, "There's always a bright side. That machine will probably run out of batter in an hour or two." If Mr. Gabby hadn't been quick on his feet, Uncle Ulysses would have knocked him down, sure as fate. Then, while the lady wrung her hands and said, "We must find it, we must," and Uncle Ulysses was moaning about what Aunt Agnes would say, and the sheriff was eyeing Mr. Gabby, Homer sat down and thought hard. Before 20 more doughnuts could roll down the little chute, he shouted, "Say, I know where the bracelet is! It was lying here on the counter and got mixed up in the batter by mistake. The bracelet is cooked inside one of these doughnuts." "Why, I really believe you're right," said the lady through her tears. "Isn't that amazing? Simply amazing." "I'll be darned," said the sheriff. "Oh," moaned Uncle Ulysses. "Now we have to break up all of these doughnuts to find it? Think of the pieces. Think of the crumbs. Think of what Aggie'll say." "Nope," said Homer. "We won't have to break them up. I've got a plan." So Homer and the advertising man took some cardboard and some paint and printed another sign. They put this sign in the window, and the sandwich man wore 2 more signs that said the same thing and walked around in the crowd out front. This is what the sign looked like. It says, "Fresh doughnuts, 2 for 5 cents while they last. $100 prize for finding a bracelet inside a donut. P.S. You have to give the bracelet back." Then the doughnuts began to sell. Everybody wanted to buy doughnuts, dozens of doughnuts. And that's not all. Everybody bought coffee to dunk the doughnuts in too. Those that didn't buy coffee bought milk or soda. It kept Homer and the lady and the chauffeur and Uncle Ulysses and the sheriff busy waiting on the people who wanted to buy doughnuts. When all but the last couple of 100 doughnuts had been sold, Rupert Black shouted, "I got it!" And sure enough, there was the diamond bracelet inside of his doughnut. Then Rupert went home with $100. The citizens of Centerburg went home full of doughnuts. The lady and her chauffeur drove off with the diamond bracelet, and Homer went home with his mother when she stopped by with Aunt Aggie. As Homer went out of the door, he heard Mr. Gabby say, "Neatest trick of merchandising I ever seen." And Aunt Aggie was looking skeptical, while Uncle Ulysses was saying, "The rings of batter kept right on dropping into the hot bat, and the automatic gadget kept right on turning them over, and the other automatic gadget kept right on giving them a little push, and the doughnuts kept right on rolling down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. They just kept right on a-comin', and a-comin', and a-comin', and a-comin'." And that is the end of the story. Okay, now it's time to tell you why I like this story so much. Now, a few years ago, I was teaching and I was reading this story to my students. And afterwards, I told them that I love donuts. Well, the next week was Teacher Appreciation Week. And my students thought, we should get our teacher donuts since she likes donuts so much. So, the first day of Teacher Appreciation Week, sure enough, a student showed up with a box of donuts and gave them to me. And I said, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much." And I opened it and I ate a donut and I put the box with the rest of them up on the shelf to have later. And then another student came in with a box of donuts. And I said, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much." And I ate a donut and I put the rest of them up on the shelf. And then another student brought donuts. And I said, "Oh my goodness, how am I ever going to finish all these donuts?" Well, I had some donuts and then I saved the rest for the next day. The next day, another student brought me donuts. And every day that week, I had at least 1 or 2 students bring me a box of donuts. And I ate as many as I could and I shared as many as I could, but it was too many to eat. And so I kept having to pile them up on the shelf. And by the end of the week, I had so many donuts. And then I thought, oh my goodness, that's the same thing that happened in the story. It happened to me too. So now I love that story so much. I hope you enjoyed it too, and I'll see you next time. Bye!